Hey, family. Hey, family. Happy Friday. The comfort zone has returned. And today, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to start my interview series, and at least once a month, my goal is to have someone to interview to help anyone understand how they can step out of their comfort zone and do some things that they may have been thinking about doing, weren't sure about it, or was like, I think I can do that. So I'm going to be interviewing people who are not famous, but they're famous to me because they're people that I know, people that I trust, and people who I've learned from. So I want to share their experiences with you. So today, I want to welcome you to the comfort zone. This is the place where you can determine whether you are ready to step out of your comfort zone or not. But remember, you're right either way. I'm your host, Donna E. Williams, owner of Donna's Touch LLC, where everything I touch comes from the heart. So today we're going to interview. This is my first interview, and this is someone who's a very, very dear friend of mine, and I am so pleased that she took time out of her busy schedule. When I say she's busy, to interview with me. Her name is Lonnie Mendez, and she is a highly recognized and sought after expert in the business community where she brings over 20 years of corporate and consulting experience with global organizations. Lonnie's expertise and passion is in creating structures and workability for people to support them in reaching their goals. She attended Bloomfield College in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and later attended Divine University. Her educational background is in technical management with a concentration in human resources. In 2007, she completed her CCP, Certified Compensation Professional certification through World at Work, an organization that is recognized across the globe for its authority in human resource education. In honoring her commitment to bringing order to the lives of business owners, executives, and busy parents, Lonnie started her concierge business, Classic Concierge LLC. The mission of the company is to serve as a source of inspiration and empowerment for individuals by providing personal assistance services, consultation, and support that enhance the quality of their lives. In 2008, she started a second business, Global HR Concepts LLC, providing professional writing, editing, and career coaching. In 2015, Classic Concierge was awarded the Angie's List Super Service Award for delivering outstanding service to its clients throughout the year. She is also a published author of Straightened Up 50 Ways, 50 Simple Ways to Live a More Organized Life and Choosing All of It, Walking in Faith Down an Unknown Path. And she has a couple of other books that she will be sharing with us throughout this interview. I have the distinct pleasure and honor of introducing my special guest, Lonnie Mendez.
Hey, Miss Donna. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being on this journey with me and agreeing to be my number one interview.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to be here. It's my pleasure.
All right, all right, all right. I'm going to get right to it. So, I wanted to give some context to people, and based on your bio and everything, we want to talk about how you were able to get this whole thing started with on your entrepreneurial journey. So, I want to ask you. I'm going to just ask you some questions, and you feel free to answer however it feels best to you.
Sure.
What did your life look like before you became an entrepreneur?
Okay. Yeah. So before I became an entrepreneur, I was divorced, a divorced mother of three, and I was working in the corporate world. And as you can imagine, that was very stressful. I had long hours, not a lot of work-life balance. I worked late some nights, and the kids and I would be eating dinner at 9 o'clock by the time I get home and get them situated. Also, I used to still answer emails and work at 2 and 3 in the morning. So again, I was not really taking care of me. I was pretty stressed out, and I was actually trying to pour from an empty cup in terms of taking care of and providing for my children. We had the money because it was the corporate world, the big bucks, but we were sacrificing quality of life in exchange for that.
Very interesting. Great answer. Thank you. So what was the very first decision you made that truly pushed you out of your comfort zone?
Well, the first decision I made was I had taken a workshop that really pointed, it was a self-discovery workshop, and it pointed me to some things that were going on that I was not aware of prior to taking that course. And so the main thing that I realized was that I wasn't valuing myself. So that was the first decision. The first decision was making the decision to recognize my own value and to honor myself around that topic of value. That was that first decision. And that triggered a bunch of decisions that I made that changed the entire trajectory of my life.
Okay, that leads me right into the next question. So at that moment, what scared you the most and what mattered more than that fear?
What scared me the most was that if I didn't make some changes, I was not going to be here for my children's adult lives because stress is real. I worked with people who came into the company where I was working. This is a gigantic company. We won't say any names, but it was a big, giant pharmaceutical company. And people would come in there and within 6 months, they would be on high blood pressure medication. Right? And so I knew what scared me was that I need to make some changes for my own sanity and for my health. But what also scared me was that I needed to be the best me that I could be in order to take care of my children, in order to be there for them. So my fear was, oh my God, what would happen with their lives if I don't change something now?
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's quite a motivator. And so did you always see yourself as an entrepreneur or did that identity develop over time?
I always dreamed and envisioned myself as an entrepreneur. I can remember when I was a child. And at some point during this interview, I know we're going to share my bookstore where all my books are, but there is a book on there about me in my childhood pretending to be a business owner, putting price tags on things, playing store with my younger sister. So all the way back then, I had that entrepreneurial seed that was planted. And it was planted from people in my family, my grandmother, my father, my older sister. So I always had that in the background. And I even remember when, probably like in the early 1990s, when AOL came out, and I used to picture myself waking up, signing on, checking email, and working without ever having to leave my house. And so that was
Mm,
always a vision of mine going all the way back.
wow. And we're gonna talk about how that has come full circle for you. And yeah, that's amazing. That's good. See, I want our listeners to understand that these dreams start from young and that we can continue to build upon them and don't give up on them. Right.
That's right.
So then we move into stepping out of your comfort zone because that's what this podcast is all about. People stepping out of their comfort zone. So I would like to know if you can describe a moment when staying comfortable would have been easier than moving forward, but you chose growth anyway.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is my marriage. Yeah, it would have been real comfortable to stay in that marriage. My husband was a good person and he was a good dad, right? But that doesn't mean that we work well together. Like that's a whole separate issue, right? And so the comfortable route would have been what I saw happening with everybody in his family at the time, like all his siblings, and they were all married and they had separate lives and separate bedrooms, and they just were like, hey, this is just how we're going to live. And that didn't fit with my vision for what a marriage should look like. So the comfortable thing would have been to just stay right in that marriage because, hey, I got support with the kids, I had help with this or that, but the things that weren't working were still there. And it really takes stepping out of your comfort zone to address the things that aren't working, to really weigh those things out and say, okay, is this how I want to live for the rest of my life with this person? Or is it more important for us to recognize what's not working, amicably split, right? And be powerful co-parents together. Like that's not comfortable when you're used to having somebody by your side to make decisions with and, to do things with. Just the idea that, okay, now it's just going to be me and the buck stops here. Because I get it that co-parenting is still co-parenting, but that looks a lot different when another parent lives in another state, right? You can't possibly get the same support if you're in two different places. So that's the first thing that comes to mind when you ask about, I could have stayed comfortable and just just toughened it out and made it work, even though it wasn't working.
Okay, so all right. So that leads me right into the next question. How did you navigate uncertainty? Because I would have to believe that when you were in this marriage and everything was good, or at least on that level from him being a good dad and a good provider, that it was not easy to step out. And what uncertainty did you navigate when there was no clear roadmap? Or did
Well,
you have a clear roadmap
yeah, no, the roadmap is often not clear most of the time,
most of the time?
right? And so the
Hmm.
first thing I'm going to say about that is that's where God comes in. I mean, he's there all along, but that's when we really, really have to rely on him and
Hmm.
ask him for guidance and not ask him for guidance and then hover over him like, what are we going to do about this? Like, ask for guidance, pray for
You
him.
taking too long. Why are
That's
you
right.
taking?
That's right. And let him do his work because God is never late. He might not
Mhm.
be on, things might not happen according to his will. They might not happen on your timetable, but you better believe they're always right on time. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, whenever I was unsure and the roadmap wasn't clear, and this is when it comes to my marriage and when it comes to after the marriage ended, leaving that corporate world. When people told me, how could you leave corporate? That comfortable paycheck to become an entrepreneur. You have children, you're divorced. Well, again, I didn't know how I was going to make it work. I didn't have the details. And I'm just going to add, too, that we want a preview. We want God to say, hey, here's how it's going to go. But believe me, we would screw it all up if we knew how it was going to go. And that's why we don't have any insight into that. That's beyond our understanding.
Man, my sister, amen. Amen. That is so, so true. And if any of us have lived a certain amount of years, we have testimonies and experiences to to confirm that very
That's right.
statement.
For
So
sure.
when did you doubt yourself? And how many, well, not how many times, but were there times that you doubted yourself and you kept going anyway? Wait. And how did you keep going anyway? I'm sorry. How
Yeah,
did you?
no worries. Absolutely. Doubt is a thing that comes up often. It comes up all the time. Even in my business now, after being an entrepreneur for 18 years, for almost 20 years, I'll go on stage to a speaking engagement or go into a meeting with the client, and that fear creeps up and that doubt creeps up, right? But you and I talk about this all the time. People who are successful and people who are courageous and people who step out and do things, step out on faith, it doesn't mean that they don't have that doubt or that they aren't fearful. That is just a normal thing that creeps up. It just means that in spite of that fear, we step out and do what we have to do anyway. And I'll give you one specific example that's not business related or related to my marriage, but I think it's a very good example. And it was in 2022 when I went to Costa Rica with three of my girlfriends, and we went ziplining. And can I just say that when I tell you I'm afraid of heights, I am really afraid of heights, like seriously. And so I went through that whole zip line experience like this. And they kept saying, oh, look over here, it's beautiful. And I said, if I don't look straight ahead, the helicopter will be coming to rescue me because I will not be able to move. And I made it through that whole experience. But I just want to say that when we walked up those stairs to that platform where we take off and go zip lining, By the time I got to that platform, I sat down on the side and I said, I think I'm not going to do this. And there were strangers that I didn't even know saying, come on, you could do this. And what gave me my fear back was just the thought that regrets. We don't want to ever have regrets when our life ends. When we get to the end of our journey, we don't want to say, I should have done this, I should have done that. And I just pictured myself on the other end of that zip lining journey where those three women that I was with, those three friends had gone and they had an experience of a lifetime. And I sat out because of fear. And at the end of the day, we all made it to the other side and we were okay. So when I thought in that way, I knew that it was going to be okay in the end. So again, I had to put my trust in God, but it was a phenomenal experience.
Yes, yes. And I remember you sharing that with me. And as you were talking about it, I said, oh, I wish I had the picture. So I could have put that up while you were talking. I mean, but
Oh,
we were kind of doing this like we're going rogue. So
that's right.
I might be able to include it or insert it somewhere in the when
Okay.
I put it up on YouTube. But yes, see, our faith sometimes can helps us push past our fear.
Yes.
Faith is stronger than fear, and you have to trust it and just keep going anyway. And I'm so proud. That will not be me.
Thank you.
But I'm very proud. When she told me that story, I was like, "Oh, right, okay." And I
And you have to
really,
have that vision too, Donna. See the end. See that end result. And that'll help you get over that fear too. If you can
yeah,
visualize,
yeah,
when I have to
yeah.
go talk to people, I visualize them clapping and a standing up ovation and me up on stage. That's what helps me get over that fear as well.
I agree. I understand. I know I deal with that too when I have speaking engagements. I do that as well. But that's my comfort zone. So we're
Yes.
talking about stuff when you're not comfortable. So that's
That's
things to work on. And actually, that was a nugget for someone. That was a
right.
nugget about focusing on other things or um,
Yes.
really
Having that end in
understanding how
mind.
to push have that end in mind. So what is one of the failures or setback that significantly shaped how
Mhm.
you do business today?
Ooh, happy to talk about that. I wasn't at the time, but I am now because it's years later, decades later. I remember when I first started early in my entrepreneur journey in 2008. And there was a consulting firm that I used to work with that partnered with the big corporation that I had left when I became an entrepreneur. So they called me up. They said, hey, we want to fly you out to California. We want you to speak at our roundtable discussion. It's a bunch of HR people. And I was so excited. That was one of my first, I had spoken at work all the time, but this was one of my first speaking engagements on my own as an entrepreneur. And it was in the infamous Marina Del Rey, California. Nice little beach town, right? And so they flew me out there and they put me up in a Ritz-Carlton. It was amazing. And I had prepared this presentation and I was in conversation with them and sharing the PowerPoint and saying, hey, what do you guys think? And they were like, this looks great. It's going to be a blast. Everything's going to go super. So I get out there and I do this presentation and I send out these evaluation forms to everybody in the audience. And everybody's form was like, oh, this was brilliant. It was great. But there was one form, and I'm not saying that was the only neutral form that was like, oh, you could have added this or that. But this particular form was basically, in so many words, it was saying, oh, tell me something I didn't know. This was a waste of time. Like it was a very negative evaluation. And I got so upset. My first thought was, why would somebody be so mean? They don't even know me. But then after I cooled down and I called a mentor or two, right? I had a couple of mentors that I would go to as a new entrepreneur and get feedback from them whenever I ran into challenges. And they said to me something that made so much sense. They said, how can you ever get better if you always get good feedback?
Mm.
If you want to improve, if you want to truly improve, you've got to see your customers and your clients' feedback, even if it's negative. You've got to see it as a place of an opportunity for you to grow, get better, develop, improve what you're offering. And it just really opened, it shifted my whole mindset when it came to feedback after that going forward. So I realized that you can't always have positive feedback. And when you have the negative feedback, don't take it like, oh, this is personal. This person is, attacking me. Instead, go to the person and say, what can I do better? What was it that was missing for you? What can I incorporate? So that was a failure to me or a negative experience, but it changed the way that I did business going forward.
That's an excellent answer. And you answered two questions in that because you talked about how you recovered emotionally, practically from that experience. And so I want to ask you, what did that moment teach you about resilience and self trust? And how do you define failure differently than you did at the beginning?
Well, first of all, that helped me to it helped me to develop the understanding that failure is a failure in performance. It's a breakdown in performance. You are not a failure.
Come on now. Come on now.
It was just a failure in performance. And what there is again, find that lesson learned. Don't dwell on that failure, but find out what's the lesson learned and what happened. Where can I make improvements? What can I do better? So that's my relationship to failure is always where can I grow? How can I do it different next time? Right? When things fail, that's just showing you one more way that doesn't work. So then you move on to trying the next thing. And that's the way I look at failure. It's an important, a very critical part of success. Without the failures, you cannot reach success. So
Yes.
that's my relationship to failure. Now, you had a second part to that question, too. What was the second part?
Resilience, the resilience part. What did it teach you
Right.
about resilience or self trust?
Yeah, I do trust myself and I do know that I have to be resilient. But that's so what comes into play with that is purpose. And the reason why one of the reasons, the main reason why I'm so resilient and why I trust myself to say, okay, this didn't go right. So now we're going to go in this direction, or here's what we're going to do next, is because I firmly believe that I'm living on purpose, that I am walking in purpose. And when you're living your life purposefully and you have identified, hey, this is my passion, this is the gift, these are the gifts that God gave me. And when God gives us these gifts, even through experiences, they're not for us. They are for others to eat the fruit of those gifts and those experiences and those things that we've learned. And so that's why I am resilient and I do trust myself because I trust in him and I believe that this walk that I'm on is a purposeful walk.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. At least right into the next part of what we're talking about because as I said in your bio, you are a business owner of more than one business, of several businesses, and I want you to speak about them. And I want to know what inspired you to create more than one business instead of staying with just one.
hmm Yeah, I've had to answer that question over this journey numerous times, especially in the beginning, right? Because if you
Mhm.
listen to people who are seasoned entrepreneurs and people who are, the big timers that you see on Shark Tank and people like that, you will hear the message that you should have multiple streams of income, right? But the key for a lot of people, me, I am a serial entrepreneur, a serial multitasker. Multitasker. I'm very good at doing numerous things, right? At once. And so,
Okay.
what you'll hear from most people, this is kind of like the standard, is for you to become an expert, become seasoned, and get really good at that one thing, that one business that you've opened, right? That you've started. And once you do that, then you can create the space to embark on other ventures. But for me, I actually started two ventures at once. Okay. And it was because I felt like those were the two gifts and the two talents and the two strengths that God gave me to use to make a difference for other people. And I started them both at once. And then later on down the road, I even began participating in some other business ventures. And so today I have probably about eight streams of income. I have, I would say, three businesses that are LLCs. I'm also the founder and the executive director of a nonprofit. And then, of course, my books and publications is a business in itself. So did you want me to talk about each one of those ventures now, or is that later down the road?
We can, well, actually, you can because the next question is how did each business stretch you in a different way? And just for the audience right now, at the end, when you go to YouTube, we're going to put all of these information contact so that you can reach out to Lonnie and stay in touch with her and find out what her different businesses are.
Okay,
So, how
thank
did
you.
each business stretch you? You're very welcome. Oh, you're
Hmm.
more than welcome. How does each business stretch you in a different way?
Okay, so let's talk about my first business that I ever started, and that is Classou Concierge LLC. And so I started that business because I tell you what happened. Early on, way back, I mean, early 2000s, I was reading an article in Black Enterprise magazine, and it was talking about how our people need to learn how to get paid for their skills. And I started thinking about, well, what are my skills? What are my strong skills? And what I realized was that I used to go to other people's houses and just volunteer and just organize them, organize their offices, their papers, their closets. I had the gift of organization. And I used to go out and use those. And I never thought about doing that as a business, right? And so that's the first thing I thought about. And I started conducting a bunch of research. Hey, would people actually pay for this? Would they pay for somebody to come in and organize? Now you gotta understand that back then there were no professional organizers. I was like one of the first. It was not well known at all. Today it's very well known. We have the Hoarders show on TV, and but this is back when people were like, "Huh? Is that a thing? Somebody can come in and organize stuff?" And so that was how I started that business. And the way that it stretched me was just realizing the difference between when you are very good at something and you have a gift and you start a business and you are a solopreneur. It stretched me because it made me realize that that business can only go so far unless I give it away. And what do I mean by that? Train other people, raise other people up, create systems that are duplicatable. That was a huge challenge for me. And that was the way that that business stretched me because I worked on doing that for a 2 or 3 year period. I worked on recruiting the right people, showing them how to do the work impeccably like I did, right? And which is very difficult. I didn't want clients to say, "Hey, that person didn't do it like you. Like it's not worth it." And I realize now why businesses like that, the owner and the expert, they charge a certain hourly rate if you want them. But then if they have disciples, you can pay a lower rate if you want this person. They'll still do a good job, but they're not me and their work won't look like mine, right? So anyway, that's the way that business stretched me. And today in that business, I no longer do the professional organizing anymore, but I know that everything, the differences that I've made for the people in that business over a 15-year period has been transitioned into things that can still make a difference for them and other clients. So now today I have a book, Straighten Up 50 Simple Ways to Live a More Organized Life. It's a nice reference guide that helps you to get organized and maintain that organized status. I also have a webinar about decluttering, managing your finances, managing your paperwork, organizing your home. So I've turned everything that I created in that business into resources that live on, but I just don't go out and do any physical organizing anymore. I do more like productivity consulting now and organizational consulting in that business. So that's how that business stretched me. The
Good.
other business that I started around the same time was when I went on that journey of realizing about not valuing myself. And so I walked away from my corporate life, which was in human resources. At the time, I had had 20 years in HR, right? 20 years of corporate experience. I walked away from that corporate life and I started doing HR consulting on my own. And what stretched me about that was initially I kept looking at marketing that business as if I was marketing it to businesses. Because I'm like, I worked in HR and corporate. So now, how do I market to other corporate places and commercial businesses? And so the stretch for me there was that I realized the first stretch was that I realized behind those corporate places and those commercial businesses are still what? People. At the end of the day, I'm still marketing to people. And I
Right.
had to really, that's what it really shined a light on that for me, that you are still creating and developing relationships because those people in those companies are the ones that make the decisions to hire you. So it's still the same dynamic. You don't market to a company, you market to the people in the company that make the decisions. So that was the first stretch. And the second stretch was around COVID, around the time of COVID-19. My biggest and my most faithful client that I had been with me for 10 years went out of business. They were bought out and they stopped using my consulting service. And that put a big dent in my income in that business. And it helped me to realize how dangerous it is to have one or two clients in a business, right? You always need to diversify and have multiple clients. Now, I did have some small clients, but they were my main bread and butter in that business. And so the second stretch was for me to reinvent myself. And I stopped focusing on so much HR consulting and writing because I used to write job descriptions, standard operating procedures, HR policies. I stopped doing so much HR work and started doing a different kind of writing. So I did do some additional studying, right, to learn about grant writing and some other classes that I took so that I could make that transition. But I started doing ghostwriting. I started, doing grant writing. I still did the resumes, and then I ventured out into more career coaching to go along with those resumes, and even completed an executive coaching program and start doing executive coaching. So that business transition, I learned to reinvent myself accordingly when things in the market dictate how things are going, right? So you want to
You
always be,
pivoted.
yeah,
You
and
pivoted.
I pivoted and it speaks to that resilience that you asked about earlier, right?
Mhm.
And so now today, for the past 7 years, 6 or 7 years, that business has been a writing, speaking, and coaching business. And that's what I focused on in that business. So those are the
And
two ways that that business stretched me.
the name of that business is what?
It's called Global HR Concepts.
Right. Global HR Concepts.
Right.
Okay. And you also have Classic Concierge.
That's right. Those are my two main businesses. I did venture out and start investing in real estate about 2 years ago, and that is still coming along. It's a learning process for me because while I'm a seasoned entrepreneur, I'm new to the real estate arena. But my desire to get involved in that really had to do with being able to support. Maybe it won't be a whole bunch of families, but support other families because the cost of rentals and living and housing is just so astronomical. It's
Mhm.
astronomical. And I want to be able to make a difference for people as well as leave a legacy for my children as well. So, and
This
and
is
that
Go
business is
ahead.
called Wealth Purpose Finesse
Go ahead.
LLC. Go
Okay.
ahead. What were
Thank
you
you.
going to say?
I was gonna say, anyone who's listening to this and you hear all of these different things that she's speaking of, you might be thinking to yourself, "Oh, wow, that's a lot. She's doing a lot. There's different things that are going on here." So I want to lead into asking this question. So, what systems or habits help you manage this growth that you achieve without burning out?
Okay, good question. So the first thing is realizing that balance. It's like in the beginning, I had to remind myself, okay, so why did you take on this whole entrepreneurial? And if you remember, it was because of work-life balance, because my children were young and I was a single mom. And that's what prompted the whole thing to get out of that hectic lifestyle. So one of the things that I've always realized and worked to take advantage of since I became an entrepreneur was that my schedule is my schedule, right? And being in control of my own schedule. So when people tell me, oh, you're so busy, you don't have time for this or that, my response is always people have time for whatever they want to have time for and for
Right.
whatever is important to them,
That's
right?
right. That's
So
right.
so I decide the percentage of time that I want to spend on each one of these businesses, but I also want to point out how I have streamlined a lot of things that go along with these businesses because um, in 2022, in response to an offer that I stumbled across that I could not refuse, I returned to the workforce as well. Now, so I'm back in the workforce. I work 100% remote and I can completely divide the time that I spend on any business items versus the time that I spend at my employer. And how do I do that? Number one, most important, delegate, right? Delegate. And so if you recall, I don't go out and organize people anymore. That business stands alone. The resources are there. I have a small team for certain things to handle some of my virtual assistant clients. So I rarely get involved in that. It's more like oversight. And then for the real estate business, I co-founded that with another business partner. And so all of the structures that we put in place are such that they really don't use up a lot of my time. So I'm able to balance, okay, I'm working from this time to this time, and then these 2 hours on these two evenings, I'm going to work on this. It's all about planning, right? It's all about planning and it's all about delegation as well, and realizing that you can't do everything. Ultimately, my plan is to have these business ventures bring money in without me having even less involvement than I have right now. And for those dollars, for that income to be part of my retirement income. That is what I've been driving toward for the past 3 or 4 years since I returned to the workforce, is to have those become well-oiled machines so that, because I love the work that I do at my job too. I love it. It's really great. I'm still using talents, right? Which is really important. We are given gifts and talents so we can be a
Right,
contribution to other people. So
right,
it kind of
right.
all ties in together, and it's about planning and it's about delegating and managing
Yes,
your time effectively.
yes. Thank you. Thank you for that very detailed answer. I have been the recipient of her organization, definitely, and I can say for a fact she's a whiz. She knows what she's doing. I
Thank you.
for those of you who have never had the experience, sorry. I know. I'm sorry, but it's organization is a thing, and it is something that people who have the gift should definitely share it with more people because a lot of us out here need it. That's for sure. And delegating and making it where it's able, the resources are available so that people can take advantage of it if they choose to. You have come a long way, and that's what I want to talk about. Your mindset, confidence, and identity. These are the things that I want to touch
Mhm.
upon a little bit as we move through because to do these kinds of things, these three things have to be a part of your life. So
Right.
I want to start with the mindset. How has your mindset changed from when you first started to now? Woo! I can imagine. I can
Well,
imagine.
okay. Let me say two things about that. The first one is one of the things that's really important if you're going to continue to evolve into the person that God meant for you to be is a growth mindset. Because whatever doesn't grow dies, right? You got a plant that
Amen.
doesn't grow, you don't water the plant, you don't feed it, it'll turn brown and die, right?
Right. That's right.
So that growth mindset is very important. But to speak to the question of how my mindset has changed, and it ties in with the confidence, because that was the third thing, right?
Right.
Okay. So to
Confidence, mindset, and identity.
yeah, so okay, so to speak to that, how my mindset has changed. In the beginning or earlier, we talked about fear and being nervous and trusting yourself. The more you step out on faith and try things, and the turnout is successful, the more you build your confidence and the more you impact your mindset to a I got this mindset, right? So what
Mhm.
helps me when it comes to mindset is whenever, as long as I've been around, right? As long as I've been in business, my 20 years of corporate, my almost just about 20 years of entrepreneurship, as long as I've been around, I can draw on numerous experience that did end successfully, where I was a huge success. So whenever I get nervous or I think about, okay, how's this going to work? Can I even do this? I draw on past successes. Drawing on your past successes feeds your mindset, right? It
Yes.
helps you to remember who you are
Yes.
and
Yes.
remember the power of the tongue and remember the gifts that God gave us. You draw on those successes and that builds you up. And that's how I manage mindset, right? That's how I manage identity. I know myself to be someone who has done X, Y, and Z, right? And we just went through this, right? When you were here at my office, at my house for New Year's, we wrote down things that we have accomplished. things
Yeah.
that we did in 2025 that, and I mean, we kept forgetting, right? Didn't we? We
Yes.
thought the list was done, and then we'd all have conversations, and we'd be like, wait a minute, you did this and that. Go add that to the list.
Yes.
So
Yes.
remember to draw on your past successes. I don't care how few you have that you can remember, I don't care how small they are. Acknowledge those successes and allow them to give you power so that you can boost your mindset and boost your confidence.
And that's how you answered that question. And what does success mean to you now? It boosts your power, it boosts your confidence, right? So these, and I mean,
Yes.
you might want to add a little something more to that.
Yes.
But, like how success, what does it mean to you now? What
Yeah.
does it,
So the first thing I want to say is that success looks different for everybody, right? It looks different for every person. So I want to encourage you all not to ever look at other people and say, oh, that's what success is, and I can't have that, or I didn't accomplish that. Because success is different for each person. So when you look at other people, you run the risk of comparing their chapter 10 to your chapter 2. You don't know what God has in store for you, right?
I'm guilty of that. I am definitely guilty of
Yeah.
that.
You know,
Yes.
they could
I
have been where
am.
you are right now 15
Mm-hmm.
years ago. Don't compare yourself to other people, right? That's very important. But what I just want to say is that my definition of success is when I can, it's a couple of things. It's living a fulfilling life. It's doing work that I love. And see, some people, for them, success might mean, hey, I'll never have to work. But that's just not who I am, right? I don't even believe in retirement. To me, success means doing work that you love, being a contribution to people, leaving a legacy, making a difference for people, and also having sufficient income to live comfortably, right? And my definition of comfortable might be different than somebody else's. I'm not a lavish person. I'm not into material stuff, but my thing is travel. And if I can
Mm-hmm.
do my travel and still do the work that I love, like, those are things that define success for
Success for
me.
you.
And
Yes.
don't let me leave out number one, health as well. Also
Mm-hmm.
being healthy and being able to, have a good, solid quality of life.
Gotcha. That's good. Thank you for that. Right. Success is defined by each individual. So,
Right.
right, when we start to compare one person's success to where they think and to where another person feels that they should be, and that's where we run into trouble. That's when we're not doing what our purpose is and what God has given us the gift to do because we're too
That's
busy
right.
comparing. So it's very important to not do that. Define your own success. Think about it, write it down, and make that your goal that you strive for as you move forward in your business life or personal life. So,
Yeah.
being
And
that the two of us,
I tell entrepreneurs all the time, mind your own business. And I'm really talking about their business. Like, right?
there it is, right there it is. Mind your own business. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
I
not
love it.
other
A new
people.
different spin on that. I think I'm gonna throw that in the description. So one of the things that you and I talk about, and we talk about this constantly, is about how do we empower other people? I know what my gift is. This is it. This is part of it to help empower people to talk about the different things that I feel that I am very good at. I'm an expert at, and I have the experience to speak about. So how do you turn what you do into a gift for someone else? So one of the questions I want to ask is, what do you wish someone had told you when you were just starting out?
I wish, what do I wish they had told me when I started out? Yeah, I guess sort of what we were just talking about, that each journey is different. Your journey is your journey, right? And that whole comparison, I did deal with that for a while. I dealt with that for a while, especially when I was still an early entrepreneur, and I was in the middle of that scarcity conversation. So I didn't want to collaborate with any other businesses. I was like, they're going to steal my clients and I can't, right? I really was looking at other people that way. They're so much better than me. They've been around all these years. But I wish that someone would have explained to me about that whole comparison factor. What they're doing is not for you. This is your road and your journey, and that's theirs. And now, today, like many years ago, I have completely turned that around. I'm always looking to collaborate with other people, even if they're in the same business, because it doesn't matter how many people do the same thing that you do or provide the same service you provide. They're not you, right? The fact that
Yes,
you are
yes,
you is your superpower.
yes, yes, yes. That is it. And piggybacking on that, or building on that, I should say, what are some of the common fears that you see holding people back from stepping into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, the main one is perfection, right?
Mm,
Looking for
mm,
perfection over performance, right? So they want everything to
mm.
be perfect before they step out. I need this much money. I need every single bill paid off. Now I understand planning. I'm not trying to negate the importance of planning, but there will never be a right time for you to step out and go into business and become an entrepreneur, right? So I think that the biggest thing that holds people back is thinking that things have to be perfect before they can step out. But what I encourage my coachees to do, because as I mentioned before, I do executive coaching, I do career coaching, and I write resumes, right, in global HR concepts. Sometimes that career coaching turns into business coaching because I find out that they want to start a business, right? And so I help them get through those initial steps. Let's write the business plan. Let's write the marketing plan. Identify who your clients are going to be. But what I tell people is that you have to, I tell people to keep your day job. Don't quit your day job. Don't jump off the cliff, right? Keep your day job. Do your planning. Save your money. Start your LLC. Work on your business while you have your job until it gets to a place that you can say, okay, now I can be, this income is going to sustain me. So we're not asking you to jump blindly or anything, but just manage it so that you still have your job and you're still going to step out and try this business. So it's just
So
and it's also the fear of failure too. Let me throw that in.
okay, yeah, but and we talk about that, but failure, like you
Right.
said, if you don't fail, you don't get up, you don't grow,
That's
you don't.
right.
There you can't expect nothing to. You cannot go into it expecting that nothing won't happen, that
Right.
will be negative or won't be what you
Yeah, that
perceive it
nothing
to
will
be.
go wrong.
That
Right.
nothing will go wrong. Exactly. That nothing will go wrong. Um, so you actually answered the other two questions, but I'm going to put that out there so we can have more of a distinct
Hmm.
context. So,
Okay.
what would you say a small, brave step someone can take today to move towards their purpose? And
Hmm.
I guess and it comes down to the same
Yeah.
thing. Help when they do that, it will help them step out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. So I think that you should try to identify what it is that you want to do. And one of the ways that lead people to that is think about and write down what is something that you're really good at? What's a strong talent of yours that you're really good at, or that you might be a SME? You're an expert at it. You know a lot about it. You know how to do it. And then on the other side, I want you to write a list of what are some things, what is it that I really enjoy doing, that I love doing? And if you can marry those two, look at those two lists and be, wow, this is over here and the same thing is over here. That might be an idea for a business, right? I'm good at it. I'm passionate about it. I love doing it. So just do the work to just identify what does that even look like if I were going to start a business? What would I do? Like I did with the organizing. I sat there and thought about what am I good at? And I said, oh my God, I'm like forever going to people's houses, pulling all the stuff out of their closets and going through their file cabinets. Like I identified that I loved doing that and I was really good at it and very organized. So that's a step. And I'm going to give you one more extra one. Do the research. Research other businesses that do whatever it is. So if you come up with that thing and you're like, maybe I should start a business doing it. For example, maybe you're going to be a dog walker or a pet sitter. Maybe you like pets. Do some research. Find out how much they get paid in your geographic area. Find out what's required. What kind of insurance do you need? Do a little research to figure out, okay, what does that look like if I was going to go ahead and start this business? So that's two things you can do.
Great, great. That's excellent. And I know I did the same thing because the question for me was always, What is the thing that you love to do that you do not get paid for?
Right.
What's the thing that you do for free?
Yeah.
When I identified that, that's
Hmm.
how we got to where we are, and how I got to where I am right now. Because
Right.
these are the things that I would do for free,
And
and I
that's a
love
great way. Yeah.
I love talking to people. So this is gravy. This is not work for me. This is like so exciting. So, what experiences shaped you the most, not just as a businesswoman, but as a not just as a businesswoman, but as a person?
What experiences shaped me the most? As a businesswoman, well, we'll do the person first. As a person, what has shaped me the most is um, exposure, right? Because I am, as I mentioned earlier, I love to travel. When you travel, when you step out of your comfort zone and you experience other cultures and see how they do things and how they live, I've got 10 more states to visit, to have visited all 50 states, right?
Okay, I was going to say give context. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got 10 more states left because my goal was to hit all the states by a certain age. I've also been to 13 countries, right? So I take about 6 to 10, 6 to 8 trips a year, even if they're just long weekends sometimes. But that's just one area of exposure. When I say exposure, I'm also talking about going to workshops and conferences, even some of them who are free, right? And just networking. Building your network really shapes who you are, both in your personal and your business life, because people are amazing. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
what you're going to learn from somebody. Every time I travel, I park at the airport and then I take that little shuttle over to the terminal. And there's always interesting conversations on there with people. Where are they going? Where are they coming from? I mean, just talking to people. Make a conscious effort. Here's what shaped me. I make a conscious effort of learning something new every day, whether it's through a conversation, a newspaper article, a book I'm reading, a documentary I'm watching. So, that ties back, I guess it ties back to the growth mindset and the lifetime learning. Like, that's what has shaped me because I am always taking in new things and networking with other people. That's not to say that everybody is my friend. I am a very popular person with a huge network that is always consistently growing because I'm always going to networking events and people are always sending me referrals and introducing me to people. But my circle is very small, as you know, right? Yeah,
Yes,
but
I see
my
that.
circle of friends is small. But that's what has shaped me, really. Just exposure and conversations to other people, exposure to other places and other experiences that I've never had. Just be open and keep that growth mindset alive.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is key. That is key. We are eternal learners. We learn all day, every day, and that's
Yeah.
funny because I said that along with you, I am determined to learn something new every single day. There's so much out here that we can know that will help shape us and build us and help us grow. So thank you for that. And I got two more questions. We're gonna wrap this up. And it's like,
Okay.
how do you hope? No, I'm changing that.
Okay.
What does living boldly and authentically mean to you? And then I'm gonna ask that other question. What does
Okay.
living boldly and authentically mean to you?
I mean, that's who I am, you know.
I know that, but the people that listening don't know you like I know you.
Okay, so let's go to authentically first. Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. A long time ago, I got to a place where I stopped suffering for other people, right? So we can do things for people. We can be kind because kindness is very important in a world today where you can be anything. Make sure you be kind.
Right.
But you also want to make sure that you are true to yourself. If something is hurting you, if it's wearing you down, if you're in an environment that's not conducive to your success and your productivity, you got to be true to yourself and remove yourself from that environment. You got to be true to yourself and be honest with people about things, right? And be transparent. So that's how I'm authentic. That's how you can be authentically, live authentically by being true to yourself, right?
Okay.
And as
Yeah.
far as the boldness, The boldness again. Step into, lean into your fears because everything you want is on the other side of that fear. So don't let it stop you from trying. As long as you are living and breathing, you can start again or try something new. So go ahead and try
Don't say that again, loud, loud for the people in the back.
it. That's
Say it
right.
again for the people in the back.
As
Do
long as you
what?
are still living and breathing, you can start again and you can try something new.
Come on now. That's it. That's it. That's it. Did y'all hear that? Yeah, I hope y'all got that. That was another nugget. So here's the final question to wrap this all up. How do you hope that your story will empower others?
Yeah, that's my whole mission. My whole mission behind my businesses, my books, is to empower people to live powerfully, to live their best life. We only have this one life. This is it, right? It's not a rehearsal. This is the real thing right now. So I hope that anything in my books, in this interview, in any or my websites, through my services, I hope that I can inspire people to really live their lives now while they're here. Because it goes by quickly. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Hmm.
Lonnie Mendez, I so appreciate your nuggets, your experiences, your intellect, and the willingness and the love that you have been given by our wonderful Lord to share with our audience all the things that you feel are important as being a multi business entrepreneur and how you've gotten to the place where you are in your life today. I thank you. I love you. I truly, truly appreciate you for coming out and sharing your information with our audience. And I hope that because of it, they will be able to appreciate some of the things that you have shared. We will be putting her information and into the into the description. I'm sorry, into the description on the YouTube channel when I post this episode. But I want to say this. This is how I end my podcast, Lonnie. I want to tell all of you to celebrate your life. The more you celebrate life, the more life there is to celebrate. See you next time on the Comfort Zone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna. Love you. Bye, everyone.
Okay, recording stopped.